You are listening to Pure 24/7 Radio. I am Stephen D, and I am joined by Bob Goody from Rural Missions. Good morning, Bob.
Morning, Stephen.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and it's a pleasure for you to be joining us. This is going to be a regular thing, isn't it?
It is for the next 12 weeks. So I hope you like my dulcet tones on the radio.
Yes, absolutely. We're a real pleasure for you to join us. So how are you doing this morning?
Yeah, doing well. I've come up to the northeast from my home to record live, so it's a very exciting moment for me. But it did mean a very early start. But fortunately, my child woke up at 4:30 this morning, so I was up anyway.
All right. Okay. So you've had a long morning then.
I'd like to say a long day so far.
Wow.
Because you realise it's at 8:04 and we're still in the morning and very much got a lot of morning to go. So
yeah,
I have a cup of tea. It's all good.
All is well. You've got tea. Excellent. So we're here to talk about rural missions. Let's just start with the obvious question. What is rural missions?
Yeah, so it is a very obvious question. You're right. So it is a Christian charity working with churches from any denomination and style, as long as they're Christian, and primarily working with those in rural areas. So we go and help village churches, market town churches, and we basically come alongside them and go, how can you be a little bit more missional? Which sounds a scary word, but it's how can you talk about Jesus over a cup of coffee and a piece of cake? And we just provide a whole load of resource and support into that kind of space.
And I would presume with the slightly different challenges that come with rural communities.
Oh, without a doubt. I was at a conference a couple of days ago with churches together in England, and we did a seminar on the urban and rural divide. And I guess the reality is there is a divide, but it's more that it's a variation rather than their differences. It's not something to separate us, but actually coming into rural communities means that if you want to get there, there was a lady been invited to speak at a church in the valleys in Wales, and she said, I was going to have to leave Saturday morning to get the only bus that goes into that village. I was going to have to stay overnight, but someone would have to put me up because there is no B&B or hotel accommodation, to speak for 20 minutes on the Sunday morning. But then I was going to have to stay there Sunday night because the next bus out of the village, and the only bus that day, was on Monday. And it is a bit of a stark contrast when you go, where I live, I have a bus every 5 minutes from nearly outside my house. So there is a bit of a separation. There is a bit of a divide, but I guess I come from a place of going, God is the same, whether he's in that village, whether you're in a city. And actually a lot of the conversation pieces, a lot of the need for community, the need for peace, for love, for people coming alongside you is exactly the same, but it might just feel a little bit different.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is interesting to consider. As you say, that divide between urban and rural communities, it's very different. And that story you tell, wow, that's quite a challenge to have to face. And so there are unique challenges which will face rural communities, and that's, I presume, what you help to kind of alleviate.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily look at the challenges because there are numerous ones, like the need for healthcare in a village and having to travel an hour to go visit a doctor and all those kind of bits. They're not things that we can solve as an individual charity. What we're looking to solve is that there is a church in every single village across this country. And sometimes there might be anywhere between 10 to 30 people in that church, but in their community there might be another 500 people, another 1,000, another up to 10,000 is where the rural limit would be for a population. And actually I'd love to see all of those churches thriving, all of those churches being able to do coffee events to serve their community, and in so doing be able to introduce them to Jesus. Because imagine what it would look like if you have a church of 100 in a town or a city. That's pretty standard. But can you imagine a church of 100 or 200 when your village is only 500 people? That place would be thriving. There would be love and hope that spreads far beyond that village. So we want to support into that space. Like, how do we talk about Jesus when he's not being talked about at the moment?
That sounds really good. So, what might be some of the ways that you would go about achieving that? What might be some of the things, the resources that you provide?
Yeah, so obviously across the next 12 weeks, you'll hear lots of stories. This is the starter interview for a lot of you that are listening. I'm not going to repeat myself across the next 12 weeks, don't worry. But the main way we support is offering free consultation days or vision days. So going to journey with that entire church, because there's a lot of programs and projects that churches put out, that charities put out, that denominations put out and say, oh, if you do this, your church will grow. But then they only ever tell the leader how to do it, and they've got to try and rally the cause. We come in and bring the whole church together, the 10, the 20, the 30, the group of churches, the benefice, whatever it may look like. And basically just start simple. What is mission? Mission is simply sharing about your faith. I always open with the question, like, what would you miss? If you weren't a Christian today, what is it that you miss about, that you'd miss? People would say it's the companionship, it's the healing, it's the strength, it's the peace. And as they start to understand, well, maybe Barbara next door would love some of that too, that's what mission is. It's getting that heart that my neighbour would love to know what I know too. And then we just unpack, what are they good at? What do they love doing? There was a church that we went to support in Yelvertoft, and basically the pastor had come in and gone, right, what are we going to do to be more missional? Oh, nothing, because we haven't got time, we haven't got energy, we're not doing another program. And so instead the question becomes, what do you love doing? Well, we love baking cakes, eating together, we love reading books together. Well, why don't we just now invite our neighbour into that space? So that church has grown simply because they baked cakes and they ate cakes with people. They started a book club, and people in the village would read the book, secular and Christian, and go, what does this mean? And they started to invite them to other things out of the back of that. So our consultation days are really simple, really easy to get, but actually just inspire and create momentum behind what could be possible. Not the big, not the wonderful. And they can happen. We had a church in Matlock, Bath. They have the Matlock Illuminations. I don't know if you've come across those. They have about 1 million people go to this boat show during the winter that goes down the river, and there's like a dozen boats. And they've never engaged with it really. But they said, no, at the back of our day with you, we want to build a boat. So they worked with the Boat Society, had great conversations, invited people to church as they were building the boat. They did the illuminations, they had a stand, they shared their faith, they talked about what the church could offer. That boat is now in a museum type thing, and it's got a little placard saying the church took part. And I'm like, what better way to serve your community than getting involved in the thing that they do?
It's not complicated, is it?
It's not. I just don't understand when people say I can't do mission, because mission is just being yourself, but actually making sure that that heart of yourself, that relationship with Jesus, comes through in what you're doing.
So essentially, these people, they have what they need. It's just giving them a right nudge in the right direction, I guess.
Oh, without a doubt. That's all we offer. Well, we offer other stuff and support into that. So we do networks. We provide resources online, digital. We provide written resources. But everything we offer is free because we are so passionate about people understanding what it means to do this thing that we don't want money to be a barrier. And oftentimes you've probably all gone through villages where it's like, give us some money for the spire or give us some money for the wall that's falling down, because they've got to look after the space. So we don't want to detract from any of that. We just want to go, let's just talk about Jesus and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I love that. It's not complicated. I love how just helping people to realize that they can do what they can do, and just sort of leaning into what they enjoy doing and starting there. I love that. It's really simple.
Yeah. So we do that, and then, as I say, we offer those networks where we gather people in spaces close to them or online, because it is tough. It is difficult. If you're in a church in an urban setting, you've probably got a few hundred people around you that are all in the same kind of position, going through some of the same struggles. Whereas if you're in a church out in the sticks and there's 12 of you, and sometimes I meet people in their 30s that are in that church and they're like, I am the youngest by 50 years. And you go, where do they get their support? Where do they get their encouragement to keep going in the midst of all this? We provide that space for them because people need love, people need cheering on, people need a bit of accountability as well. Like you said you were going to talk to your neighbour. Have you done that? And maybe that's a challenge for the people listening this morning. Is there something that you've not done that you wish someone would be prompting you about?
Yeah, that's an easy one, isn't it? We can so very easily forget what we set out to do or come up with excuses, perhaps. Perhaps we are not so much forgetting, but just putting it off. So actually someone coming alongside and saying, have you done that thing you set out to do? It's not a complicated question to ask, and will probably prompt people. That nudge we mentioned earlier. Yeah. So that's some of the things you do, those consultancy stuff. What other resources might you be offering?
So we recently launched a thing called our missional toolkits, because we recognize that not everyone's going to be able to host one of these events, or they're still thinking through and processing. So we came up with almost a stop check, an audit of where you're up to. And so these are available for free on our website at ruralmissions.org.uk. You can order a copy, we'll post it out to you. So we have a missional toolkit. You can do this on your own, with your PCC, with a group. We could even come and do it on Zoom or in person with you. But it's just a little booklet to help you process through, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? How am I doing it? Is it actually worthwhile? Because I love to ask the question, what are you going to stop, start, or change to be more intentional? And oftentimes people are doing things in their churches, and we do it in our own lives as well, don't we? Where we're just doing it because I've done it for 20 years, I've done it for 30 years, my parents did it, and we just get into that process. And sometimes we just need to stop and go, is there any point to what I'm doing? Or should I be doing something slightly differently?
Yeah, there's a song we have on our system, The Motions by Matthew West, and he talks about just going through the motions and how he doesn't want to just go through the motions, not just doing what he's always done because he's always done it, but actually doing it, as you said, intentionally. And I love that question. What can you start, stop, or change? I love that. That's absolutely brilliant. It's the perfect question that probably a lot of people need to stop and consider, ask themselves, what do you need to stop, change, or is it stop, start, or change?
Start, stop, or change.
Start, stop, or change, in order to be more intentional. And I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And maybe you're listening this morning and you're thinking, you're on your way to work, you're listening in the car, you've got some things on today, you've got your typical Friday. Maybe it's a good moment to think to ourselves, what might I start, stop, or change in my day? Because I know for me, there are patterns that I get into in my work life, never mind my missional life, like how do I talk to people about Jesus? But it's a good thing to do no matter what you're trying to process. And we supported a church once, and they'd been running a toddler morning for centuries, decades, millennia almost. It was one of those, but they'd never contemplated what it would look like to offer prayer as part of their toddler morning, or to even put invites out for what was happening in church. So one of the major things they did is, we're going to change it a little bit, and we're going to start putting invites out for our events, and we're going to have there's going to be some prayer cards, and if people want to fill in one and give it to us, or if you'd like prayer, Betty is available. She'd love to be able to pray with you. That church has seen growth in people coming on a Sunday, and they've now got young families coming on a Sunday purely because they changed what they did very slightly and started to invite people.
So it doesn't have to be major changes. I think we can get quite nervous about what change might mean, but actually it doesn't have to be a huge change to be more intentional and therefore better achieve that missional focus, which you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. So those are some of the resources that you provide and some of the ways in which you help churches in rural communities and rural areas to do better, I guess, really, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. We want churches to thrive. I think Jesus calls us to go and make disciples. He calls us to go out by the power of his Spirit. He calls us to go see transformation, that all may come to know him. And so if I can inspire one more person to be able to do that, to take this seriously, this call to go, because there is a verse in Matthew 28, and it starts with the word therefore, which is an imperative. It's you've got to do this. I woke up at the early hours of this morning, and I didn't have the thought of, can I be bothered with this? It's Jesus tells me, therefore, go and make disciples, go and share about me in these spaces. And sometimes we just sit back and go, oh, I can't be bothered today. But maybe that day is the day that your friend needs you the most. Maybe you get into work and a friend really needs a conversation. And there's a guy in my church, Rob, he works on a building site. He's a site foreman. And one day a guy was walking past him and he looked really downtrodden. And on a building site, a lot of men around, they don't really have proper conversations as such. But Rob had started that day by praying and going, God, would you give me an opportunity to share about you? And he shouldn't have done it as the boss, but he stopped him and he said, are you all right? I want to know honestly, how are you doing? And the guy started to break down and to share how his week, his month, his year had been, and he was in the lowest place he could have been. And Rob decided, well, you're coming off work for the day. And he went and sat with him in a coffee shop, and they had a coffee, and he rang round and he got him some support that he needed. And this guy has started to explore what faith means and really processing that. And instead of going, I've got limitations on how I do things, how I work, how I operate, what's coming up for me, he went, well, no, it's not whether I can be bothered. There's an opportunity in front of me, and we need to grasp that. And I think we all have those places, and part of my job is to help people recognize that for themselves.
That's really cool. Some really amazing stories, which I'm hoping we're going to hear lots of over the coming 12 weeks. Now, one thing I'm curious about is a lot of what you're saying would be quite good for urban areas. How do you kind of distinguish between an urban area as opposed to rural?
So it's really interesting because I became a Christian when I was 16, the very first time I heard about Jesus, and had quite a dramatic conversion. I chatted with Andy B a few weeks ago and shared my story, and maybe as part of these 12 weeks, I'll share some of that too. But I've worked across the urban and rural settings for the last 25 years. So you can start to figure out how old I am from those numbers. Because no one had told me the gospel, I decided I needed to make sure people heard it. So I went straight into working for Jesus and working for the church. So I've worked in cities where definitely it's urban. It's a space, you've got thousands of people, you've got lots of things happening. Then I've worked in market towns. They're normally the cusp of what is an urban/rural. Because I was in Market Drayton a couple of months ago, 14,500 people. Some people from London came to visit the church, and they said, oh, what a lovely rural church this is. Oh, what a lovely village. And the vicar's like, this is not rural. So we tend to go off the government stats of 10,000 or less as a population.
Okay. Yeah.
Would be rural. But you can have such complexities. If somebody's listening and they go, we'd love some support, get in touch with me. Whether you're in an area where there's 100,000 people or whether there's 30, I just want to support people to do what God's called them to do. So I live in a place called Mansfield, which is in Nottinghamshire, definitely urban. But just up the road, there's Skegby that's connected to Mansfield, but is classed as a village, has 2,000 people. And people are like, no, that's not rural, because Mansfield's only there. I'm like, because there's not a tree dividing them does not mean that that's no longer a rural space. People expect if there's a farm, if there's farmers, if there's trees, then that's your rural. So, yeah. Sorry, very long-winded answer to go, rural tends to be 10,000 or less.
Okay, yeah. No, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, I would think of, if I thought of a rural area, I'd think you'd at least have one farmer in that area. That would be, for me, it'd be rural. But I mean, you can have areas without any farming and it still be quite small communities. It's not necessarily all numbers, is it?
Yeah, there's a village near me called Ravenshead, and I don't know of a farm anywhere near Ravenshead. I know of a lot of random rich people that live there, and Lord Byron used to live there. I would still say it's rural. There's a couple of thousand people live there. But yeah, a few years ago, 2 years ago, when I took over leading rural missions, we made a banner, and it had a farmer on, because we produced this resource called Farmer John's Farm. We recorded a whole load of object lesson videos that are available for free, with lesson plans and assembly plans and all age worship plans on our website. But I made the mistake of putting Farmer John on this banner. And so I was at this conference with this farmer picture, and every time someone walked past, they said, "Oh, rural, you just work with farmers, don't you?" And I'm like, no, there is more to life than farming. Yes, it is a good majority of the space, and farmers need more love and hope and community than the next person. Like, it is a really dark world, the farming world. There's low mental health and all of those. So if you are near a farmer, please do love them. Please do cherish them, look after them, call in on them, all those good things. But if you have a farmer nearby, you're likely rural. If you don't have a farmer nearby, you might be rural anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people might go to the countryside who work in the city and they'll commute in. So yeah, it doesn't have to be farming, does it?
No.
Yeah. So that's an interesting side of things. But as you say, anyone who's listening who's interested, absolutely get in touch with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you can head to our website, ruralmissions.org.uk. We're on all the socials. You'll have seen we've collaborated with Pure 24/7 this morning on a post on socials. So do come find us. We'd love to have a chat, support you, love you, and we do it all for free. So that's a bonus. That's
a bonus. Absolutely. So I think that's a pretty good place to be wrapping it up.
That's good.
Excellent.
Good to me.
So you'll be with us next week and the week after that and the week after that. So that's really cool. Thank you for joining us today as kind of an introduction to all of these future conversations talking about rural missions and what you do. Before we end, just give us the website one more time if you don't mind.
So it's ruralmissions.org.uk, and then on Insta and Facebook, it's just @ruralmissions.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us.
Here at Pure 247 Radio, we've had the privilege of speaking to some amazing people with some amazing stories.
I was about 5k off the coast paddling, and I was watching this storm on the land, and it literally hit a mountain, and rather than just going over the top of it, just turned and just came straight at me. You can't stay on the board in that instance, so I literally am jumping off the back of the board. I've got everything tethered down on the board, and I'm just holding on to the back of the board.
As I walked in, there was a fight going on the floor. There was a police sergeant sailing over the desk to help with restraining somebody. And the doors were clanging shut, all the big metal gates, and there were alarms going off and radios. And I felt this most enormous peace come over me, because I realised that this is where God wanted me to spend my career behind bars.
It was like a baptism of fire, and it was like the most socially deprived council wards in Britain. And then we were going into schools, and then kids were coming to the gigs, but then knocking on my door at night, and I was out there playing football till 11:30 p.m. at night, 12 o'clock, feeding kids, running youth clubs.
If you've missed an inspiring conversation and want to catch up, or you'd like to revisit a brilliant interview, you can. Our interviews are available on YouTube and podcast, so you can always catch up anytime you like. Search for Pure 247 Radio wherever you get your podcasts, or find our YouTube channel at Pure 247 Radio, or head over to www.pure247radio.org/catch up.